So I have this bump on the back of my head right now.
Okay.
And it's not like, STD related or anything.
That's probably good.
I think it came from like a topical obstruction.
A topical obstruction.
I mean, like something hit in my head.
For some reason, when you say that, I'm imagining an incident in a tropical forest, but I know that's not what topical means because they're two
like
completely
a coconut falls on your head or something.
Yeah.
Or like you accidentally rub the back of your head on like some poison palm tree or something.
Yeah. Or there's a poisonous frog on said palm tree.
Oh, yeah. It jumps on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it just sticks its tongue out really far, like 12 feet over to your neck, and it's like has some of the little bit of that amphibious poison.
Yeah.
Are frogs amphibians?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Because they can breathe underwater.
So I had this bump, and it made me think of the last time I think I had a bump like that, even though it's not even the same kind of bump. But do you remember when I think we were traveling somewhere for our band, and we used to be in bands, and what kind of music did we play?
Terrible music, I believe. No, I'm kidding. We were inspired by pop punk, the artist of the time, like Green Day, Blink-182, etc.
Yeah. And we had some a few shows regionally. You know, we never were that successful or anything, but we had a lot of fun. And we were traveling somewhere, and we had all our equipment in the back of your van, just tons of equipment piled in, stacked on top of each other. And I believe you were driving.
No, I think it was our other friend Aaron.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
he was driving. I think he had to. Did he go over some railroad tracks really fast?
Since I know where you're going with this, yeah, we were in the middle of nowhere. We weren't familiar with where we were at. We were using a ancient version of GPS at the time that wasn't oriented through a phone because phones couldn't really do that, except for you did have an iPhone with maps, but maps was not what it is.
It didn't have the turn-by-turn directions. It had like the GPS dot, which you could follow along with, but it was hard to do. And there was like four of us like being idiots in there, and it was loud. And
yeah, it was obnoxious and distracting as all things should be at that age. But yeah, we were trying to cross some railroad tracks.
He was a really careful driver. So for him to do that was a complete accident, right? Like
Right.
Or were we trying to beat a train?
No. Well, yeah, kind of. What had happened, now that you're saying this, we came up to these train tracks, and I'd say about 200 feet before we crossed them, the lights started flashing, and the arms hadn't gone down yet. And we had decided, half of us were yelling, go, go, go. And then the other half was like, no, don't go. There's a train coming. I'm like, well, the arms aren't down yet. We're going to make it. And Aaron, I believe, hesitated, and he wasn't sure what he wanted to do. And I think you can tell the rest because we went flying over that hump at a really fast speed.
So it was like people were screaming, slow down or speed up or go for it.
Yeah, dude,
all this stuff. And he was just
down.
like stressed out. Like, what do I do? He was flooring it, then breaking and flooring it. And then finally, I think he just floored it and went over that railroad track. And railroad tracks, like, you never know how bumpy they're going to be till you go over them. Yeah, it's like risky.
Yeah, and especially at a speed that was much higher than you typically go over that railroad track. And this was on a hill.
But I think legally, like, they should have railroad tracks should be required to have a sign in front of them posting the speed limit that you should go over it.
Yeah, that'd probably be fair.
Because you never know if you should. Sometimes some railroad tracks you shouldn't go more than 2 miles an hour over it.
Right.
Some of them, like, you go 70. Some of them are better the faster you go. They're smoother the faster you go.
Right. The bump is absorbed a lot quicker and it's less noticeable.
So I feel like they should, make signs for that. It would be courteous. Because they have those ones when you go around a curve, 45 mile an hour curve, Right here, this is a, 32 mile an hour railroad,
The train's moving at 32 miles per hour?
No, that's how fast you should go.
The suggested speed.
The suggested speed, yeah.
Well, dude, before I forget, because you're talking about this, I remember it felt like a Dukes of Hazzard episode where he had finally committed to the idea of going, and I'm excited because this is a really cool thing that you don't get to do very often, and the arms are like coming down right over my van, and I'm like, dude, we're not going to make it. But we knew we were going to make it, and then we came slamming down because, again, it was on a hill like this, so we launched off. What happened there, Jaron?
Well, I think when that happened, like because we were all so intelligent, I don't think any of us thought about the fact that we had all of our musical gear in the back.
Right.
And it wasn't nicely packed. It wasn't safe. There was, you had drums stacked on top of guitars, that were stacked on top of like a microphone, and they were probably like strung together with like a XLR cable that had been cut off and wired into like a, quarter-inch fitting on one end, and so we went over that, and the keyboard, which was it free or was in a case?
It was just free and on top of everything else.
But it was a full. It was a full key. It was a full 88.
I think
and it
so,
had
yeah.
it had features on it. So it was a big boy. It had.
It was girthy and heavy.
It had some mass to it. And that thing came flying up and just nailed me in the back of the head.
Yeah, it went from the back of the van to the
slid
second
up.
row because we had to take the headrest off to pack some stuff in, I'm pretty sure. And Jaron didn't have a headrest, and this keyboard went right into the back of his head.
And I just got that instant 88 key concussion.
Right. That's the classification.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean,
there were 88 keys, 12 notes total. But I'm pretty sure there were 37 notes just instantly jammed into the back of my head.
So I've wondered from time to time, how when people are discussing, snow's coming, the weather's about to get bad, I can feel my bones ache. When a train is coming.
Old people do that.
When a train is coming nearby, do you get a sensation in the back of your head?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that the memory to me wasn't so much the train as it was going over the railroad tracks. I think anytime I come up on railroad tracks, I think I'm just instantly wanting that warning sign for the speed limit, the suggested speed sign.
Right.
And that's probably why I feel so strongly about it, because I want that sign to be there. I think it would be fair out of all the things that society spends its money on, I think that is important. And here's the thing, if those signs are up there, I wouldn't follow them. I would go way different than what it's saying. 15, 20 miles over it.
Sure. Yeah.
But I just want it to be there out of principle, just so I can ignore it. But I know that if I would have followed it, it would have been smoother. So at least I know, that all would have been right in the world.
Yeah.
At least I know my tax dollars are being maximized.
Yeah. Can we have a moment of silence for the concussed?
Yes.
The 88 keys and the damage that they've caused?
Yeah. But I don't know if a moment of silence is... I don't know that a moment of silence is really appropriate because it was 88 keys and it was music.
All right, so let's do an honorary keyboard slide for those who have
We can't.
fallen.
I think would be a better idea?
What's that?
Let's hit our intro song.
Let's do it.
Talking about that memory really started making me think about, oh man, you got a wobbly situation going on over there.
Yeah, very amateur podcast issues here.
Yeah. That thing needs some medication or something.
I think I fixed it. Heil, you're doing good. He's doing good.
Heil the kindly Viking.
Yeah, well, Heil the kindly microphone.
Yeah. Heil the kindly miking.
Yeah, that actually, that, yeah.
Do you know what that is, though? You know that
No.
reference? It was a
No.
VeggieTales movie, I think.
No, I don't.
Yeah, VeggieTales. But it made me think about, because we were driving your van, right?
Yeah, it was my van. Oh, that van, dude.
Dude, how long did you drive that?
For quite some time. So it wasn't given to me until I graduated in 2009, but I drove it for probably about 4 years leading up to the actual receiving of the van. My parents saying, "Hey, congrats on not going to college. I guess you can have this van."
Same.
I mean, we'd already damaged it and destroyed it so much anyways. It was disrespected quite frequently. But yeah, dude, I drove that van up until probably about 2016, 2017.
Man,
so
that thing.
I drove it for over 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
235,000 miles when I sold it for 400 buckaroos, dude. I sold that thing and I was so happy to see it go.
Yeah, dude. That thing had been through a lot.
Yeah, it had.
Because when you got it, that was a 2004 maybe, 2003?
So here, let me give you the specs.
Yeah.
It was. I think it's still around. I actually see it driving around, no joke, because the guy that I sold it to in town, he repaired it, and I know it by its damage. It's a 2003 Chrysler Town & Country LX, and its color was jade silver. And while you're pulling up the image, because I sent it to you, I sent Jaron a picture of the van.
Oh, you sent one to me, okay.
Yeah. It's not my actual van. It's a listing that someone was selling one. And it's exact same color and trim level. Either way, this van, yeah, dude.
We're going to put it up on the screen.
Is that bringing it back?
Yeah, dude, that's exactly. Are you sure that's not your van? Because there's a dent on this one.
Yeah.
Yours probably had more dents than that.
It had a lot more, some rust too.
Yeah.
A lot of scratches.
But it was what year did you say it was?
2003.
Okay. So you started driving that when you started driving, like, what, 2008? You were probably 16 and, like,
I started driving it when I was 15, so it would have been
2007 or
2016.
2006.
Sorry, I can't think. 2005.
You were driving in 2005? You were...
15, yeah,
okay, man.
with my permit. Well, dude, let me say something. Because talking about this van, its color was jade silver. What do you think of when you hear the color jade? Or when you hear jade, what color do you think of?
I don't really know.
Typically green.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I wasn't thinking.
So I don't want to derail too much on this, but I want to tell you a story about this van. Since, the subject of today's show is our first cars.
Yeah.
This was my first car. And the one I owned the longest, and I had a lot of history with it. And one of the things I really cared about was people referencing the color of my car the right way. Viewers at home who have seen this will now know by looking at it that it's got a metallic sheen to it. It's definitely got green in it. However, people said it was silver. Oh, dude, it irked me so much because I knew it was green. It's in the name. It's jade.
I remember
metallic.
I remember you getting real worked up about that.
Oh, dude. So, from time to time, a friend would be like, go over to Alex's van, and they'd be like, what color is it? And people would be like, silver. I'm like, it's green.
You had to, I mean, like having an argument with you about that was so, disturbing on a deep level that, it kind of forced you to go do, color psychology research after that.
Yeah.
Because you were so unsettled about the issue.
I mean, jade is green. Green is green.
Yeah.
Ergo, they were wrong. I get it. It's got a silver undertone to it. But on that note, I want to tell you this story as long as we're talking about my van.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it pertains to the color and how much of a jerk I could be to people who were wrong about it. So remember that stint in our 20s where we would give plasma so we wouldn't have to work as often and we'd just be lazy and get free money?
Yeah, dude.
I would go weekly.
Honestly, dude, I just like showing up and laying in those chairs.
Well, this is kind of about that.
Name one bed you've ever had that's more comfortable than one of those chairs.
Every single one.
Name 7 mattress companies that have better mattresses than those plasma beds.
Sealy, Purple, Nectar.
See, he can't do it. He can't do it.
Okay, well,
I think it was the angle and the footrest.
I think ultimately you liked them more than I did.
Okay.
I would always have a form of anxiety being in there.
Maybe they were more designed for the big and talls,
Yeah, they probably were. Either way.
Yeah, go ahead.
Along the lines of being there giving plasma, I park my car, I go inside, you go through this ridiculously long check-in process, and it would take, half an hour, 45 minutes to get back in the chair, sometimes an hour.
Same questions every time.
Yeah,
they'd had to draw your blood ahead of time, and they would draw the same blood every time.
Right.
The same blood every week or
I've
twice
always
a
got
week.
it. Yeah.
It's the same blood that they drew last time, but they had to do it every time.
It's like they had a blood fetish or something.
Yeah, something. I mean...
So you know the annoyance of sitting there waiting, right? Mm-hmm. And what happens if you walk out before you go back to the chair?
I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
You'd have to start over again. It's
they would see you walk out?
If you walk out the door and you come back in because of the way that the line and the queue works, feeding in, you'd have to start all over again. So...
Okay, yep.
I've completed all of the tests that they have to do. I've done my check-in. I'm like 4 chairs away from going back. And I'm like, I'm going to get that free $40.
Yeah.
And guess what? Over the intercom, somebody says, hey, there's a semi looking to unload some things, but there is a vehicle blocking his way. If anybody drives a silver Chrysler Town and Country, please come move your van. I'm like, well, that's not me. I've got a green one.
Yeah.
Right?
Did they find the guy with the silver one?
Well, I went back in my chair and they kept asking. And the nurse that was, stabbing me politely in the arm with a needle, it was very fun. She was like, they've been asking someone to go and move that van for like 25 minutes. I'm like, yeah, it's crazy. I'm like, I've got a green one, but I don't have a silver one. And she's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, mine's green. It's not silver. She's like, well, is it Town and Country? I'm like, yeah. And she was like, okay, but like what color of green? I'm like, well, People have definitely called it silver many times over the years, but it's absolutely green. And she's like, sir, if that is your van, you need to go move that.
So they were pretty darn serious about this.
So needless to say, I didn't give plasma that day because I went and moved my green van out of the way of that semi-truck.
Needless to say is right. You were very needless that day.
Yeah. Into that story. Love that van, though. It was awesome. We drove the wheels off that thing, you know?
Sometimes that might have literally been the case.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, dude. I'm trying to think like
I would just disrespect that van so much.
You did everything. I think one time I was in there riding with you, and we went and got gas station pops all the time. I think it was like the middle of winter, and we'd get the big 44 ounce diabetes sized Mountain Dew.
Right, sized cups that should never exist and no human should consume, but we gladly did multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Back in like 2003, they didn't make cup holders very well compared to how they do now. You had one of those, like the kind that the plastic ones that come out that you pull out, and they were just kind of flimsy.
Yeah, you'd have the little tiny like robot arms that would gently touch your cup, and you would hope that it would stay in place because there was a little tiny plastic tray that would hold that drink.
It's like
up.
I need some support, not caressing.
Yeah.
I'm talking for the cup since they can't speak for themselves.
You're metaphorically the cup here. I got it.
Yeah. So anyway, I had mine sitting in there. We had just gotten them. You went over a bump or something, and that thing just fell right out. And I quickly just reached down, like as if I just dropped a baby on the floor, or something like that. I reached down.
44-ounce Mountain Dew.
Yeah, which honestly
held more value than a. Whoa, I got to be careful.
Yeah.
Let's go on. Let's go on.
Yeah. Anyway, but I see what you're saying. But anyway, so I picked that. I just quickly reach out and grab it. I pick it up, and that thing's empty. I'm just sitting there. I'm just like, first of all, I'm devastated that my drink is gone.
I remember.
And I remember I'm sitting in the passenger seat. You're over here in the driver's seat. Kind of the opposite of what we got going on right now. So and I'm like, I'm just going to pretend like you're in the driver's seat and it's that way. Let's just pretend we're in a British van, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm in the passenger seat.
Good day, sir.
And I just look over at you. I'm like, and you look at the cup, and we had the same reaction. We were just
got angry, dude.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah. I always got irate at stuff like that. Does that surprise you?
But it was funny. I thought it was funny because that thing was just empty. Like, I don't even know, first of all, I don't even know how,
where did it go?
The lid, I know. So I didn't even feel it on my feet or anything. Like, it just absorbed quickly. And it was in the middle of winter.
Oh, yeah. It was probably 20 degrees outside, if not colder.
And that thing, I'm pretty sure the entire drink just froze to your van carpet.
So I was so angry at the events that had happened, not necessarily at you, because I knew you couldn't control it. I mean, of course I was going to...
your van was dirty and trashed all the time. Why did it even matter?
The lack of concern and care and respect that I had for that van was shown in its character flaws, And one of those character flaws the next day when we came out was that 44 ounces of Mountain Dew and whole pieces of ice were frozen to the passenger side rug.
Yeah.
Dude,
it was like a green, because it was actually Baja Blast.
Oh.
It was like a
We went to Taco Bell.
Yeah. Which is even more devastating to lose Baja Blast like that than just a regular Dooski.
Rest in peace, Baja.
That thing was like a green, like a teal green, just ice skating rink on the floor of your van.
Right. I just started telling people.
It looked like that green pond in like Harry Potter, but frozen, like the ice skating rink. Like, they could sell one of these little toy sets that was like a green poison pond, a frozen ice skating rink, Harry Potter pond, as a toy and make a lot of money.
It had aquatic ocean vibes. And two things really quickly, because I want to make sure that, we transition, because I want to talk to you about your first car.
Oh, yeah.
If the van was mine. On the note of color, do you remember, the seat pattern? It looked like, on the note of styrofoam cups, too, this is kind of funny, the pattern on styrofoam cups from the 90s. The seat pattern was like that weird mixture of pink, green, like abstract, flowing colors. I don't know how to describe, you know what I mean?
Like it was like the shirts that like dental hygienists would wear.
Yeah.
You know, those really
Yeah, I'm thinking 90s styrofoam cup is my big reference point, but if that's
I know what you mean now. I wasn't. Yeah.
But either way, the van was cool. I loved it, even though I didn't take care of it, and I miss it daily. I'd buy it again if I ever saw it. On that note, though, I remember my dad having to maintain that thing and assisting to change the oil, and, I would disrespect it so much I wouldn't fill up the gas tank and run it down to empty, being like, nah, I got 30 miles in it.
You probably had to replace that a fuel pump.
When I say my dad did, and I reluctantly was not able to.
Dude, you know what's funny? I remember, because I'd have conversations with your dad about my car, because he was pretty knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And I needed help with my car because I was an idiot. And he would always...
We both were.
He would always lecture me about making sure I didn't run out of gas, because I'll have to replace my fuel pump. And now I know where that experience came from.
Yep. Ultimately, that van ran on hopes and dreams, as did your first car. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well, let me pull up a picture.
Okay. I think I know what you're going to show me. I'm pretty excited to
My
see
first
it.
car. I mean, that's what I'm going to show you. Do you remember? I'm just going to quiz you. Do you remember what it is?
I want to say it was an Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
Was it red?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I
So it
remember
was,
riding on the hood of that thing.
It was a 91 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme.
Cutlass Supreme.
Look at that.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that is a beaut.
Dude, that thing was a beast. And I don't
Yeah.
mean like it was fast and stuff or powerful. I mean, it was just like rugged. Like that thing could take a beating. Like it just like the way they made those cars back then, they were durable, man. And I needed that.
It was like a tank.
You know, yes.
A consumer-oriented tank.
You know, when you look back on times in your life and you didn't realize how much you needed something that you had, you look back and you're like, man, if I didn't have that in my time of life, it would ended up bad. And that's how I think about this car.
It's good.
It is good.
It's good. Good.
So anyway, this thing was a beast.
Can I just say that looks nice? Whoever took that picture,
I know, dude. Like honestly,
nice.
like I thought that car was so dumb looking back then, but I look back on this, I'm like, this is kind of has a cool vintagey vibe.
Isn't nostalgia weird like that?
Yeah, like this car's in better shape than the one I had.
No, let's be honest. Yours was a pristine,
Dude, one time,
pristine vehicle.
I forget his name. Why we shouldn't say his name anyway. But someone from high school, he had a truck with a hitch on it, and he was out front of one of our friends' house. He was backing up like 30 miles an hour down the street because he was trying to pull in front of our friend's house. My car was right there. So he backed into my car. He's probably not going 30. He was probably going 15 or 20, though.
Okay.
I was in the truck with him.
Just fast and reverse.
Plowed. Yeah, it is. He plowed into my car, to the front of my car, with his hitch out. His hitch was out, and it went plowed into my car. I got out. That thing didn't have a scratch or a dent on it.
Oh.
And I'm not kidding. I inspected it really well. That thing, I don't know what it was made out of, but probably like, metal and stuff.
It was made with Oldsmobile pride. Let's be honest. So that thing, it really was a tank.
Yeah, that thing was like, one of them classic GMs,
Yeah. Well,
So-
what was one of your favorite memories of your first vehicle? Because I loved that car. Honestly, dude, we spent so much time in each other's cars more than we
Oh,
realized.
yeah, dude, we used to love driving all the time.
Well, because it got us out of the house.
Yeah, we used to just do a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
We just went everywhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, man, we did a lot in that car.
Yeah.
We went out. We took it states away to pick up friends. We went far away. I never did the oil or anything in that car. It just drove.
Yeah.
It just
I can
kept
relate to
going.
that.
Yeah.
Ran on hopes and dreams.
I'm trying to think here. Oh yeah, one time I was just driving that thing down the road, and the steering wheel, you kind of had to hang. Those old big cars, you kind of had to hang on to the steering wheel a little bit as you drove.
Yeah, it had a mind of its own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that steering wheel just came loose as I was driving.
What do you mean came loose?
Like the whole steering column just came loose and fell down
Okay.
as I was out on the road. And it scared me, but it still worked. But it was just kind of loose, It was, oh, okay.
Oh, Michael really likes you.
Yeah. It was just like, it was supposed to be stiff, but it just had, the steering column had a level of flaccidity to it that you just don't want,
Right. Yeah.
And, but I drove it like that for another year or two. And then another time I was driving, and my seat, the driver's seat, like, because I would plop down onto it. And
Yeah.
if you're looking at me, you're probably thinking, there's no car that deserves to be plopped down onto in the seat by this guy. Okay. So I would plop down because I was too lazy to nicely get down on the seat. So it's kind of low to the ground. I would just plop. And I would kind of grab onto the steering wheel at the same time, which kind of, what that reminds me, that's probably why both of these things happen.
Yeah, I am starting to see a pattern here that could have caused that damage.
So the seat just comes unbolted from the floor while I was driving. And then I had to grab onto the steering wheel, but then that was not secure either. So I had to drive it that way for a while.
It's pretty awesome, though, when you think about it, that the car kept going. I feel like a car nowadays, you probably couldn't do that. If the steering wheel detached like that, it'd probably fire off errors and tell you cannot drive this car, sir. You know what I mean?
Well, this car had a lot of tech in it for its time, but it was tech that wasn't developed well.
I remember it had like a digital display behind the steering wheel, right?
This was a 91. It had a full, not a full digital, but it had a lot of like, it had the digital numbers and all that stuff.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
I remember
it was
that.
ahead of its time. And so because of that, a lot of the stuff would kind of fail. A lot of the electronics would fail because it just wasn't as developed as modern cars are and stuff. But one time I'd borrowed a deep fryer from somebody for a party. And I had to pack up all the oil when I was done and put it in these containers because you use quite a bit of oil. It was a big deep fryer because it was a big party making like dozens and dozens of chicken wings.
Were you imitating B-Dub's wings, if I remember correctly? Wasn't that like a phase?
Yeah, it was my 19th birthday party. Yeah. And I actually did it pretty well. But anyway, so
congrats.
And it wasn't even real wings; they were boneless wings, which I was not now.
Let's not have that debate today.
No. But anyway, they're not wings. Anyway, so I was deep frying, and then there was a big gallon like ice cream pail that I used to put all this oil in.
Were you frying that too?
No, but I like that.
I do like fried ice cream.
And somehow it just spilled.
Oh no!
Onto the passenger seat floor.
The oil.
The oil.
What's worse, a 44-ounce Baja Blast that
Definitely
you love and care about?
The Baja Blast. The Baja Blast goes away. It doesn't smell. Okay. The oil smells for a long time. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever been inside of KFC?
Of course. We both worked there for a short time.
Imagine that smell, but in a very tight enclosed space and much more intense smell, but it's like kind of an old musty oil smell versus a nice new, oil that had been refined or cleaned by the machine. You know what I mean?
Right. You're mixing the smell of a 15-year-old car with the smell of used oil.
Yeah, I think it was like going into the carpet and sort of effervescing the carpet and pulling out these aromas
from
the last 15 years.
And back then, cars smelled like Crayola crayons, so I imagine it probably wasn't pleasant.
Oh, yeah.
That was a thing. Do you remember that? Cars just had that weird smell.
Yeah, man. You get in an old car, you get into a 20-year-old Corolla, you might as well call that a Crayola Corolla.
A Toyota Crayola. I just simplified it for you.
We both did the nice Toyota Crayola.
You took it like to the extreme.
I did the Toyota, you did the Corolla part.
Right.
Anyway. So that was special. I'm just going to say that.
Dude, let's just appreciate the fact that these cars, for what they were at the time, they opened a gateway for us to live, Cars are a really neat thing. And like all seriousness, even though this may not sound naturally unintelligent and more intelligent than anything, dude, those cars afforded us so much opportunity to travel, to hang out with people. Yeah, dude, it really, honestly, one of the things I'm probably most grateful for in my time at that age was having a vehicle that I could use to spend time with my friends in,
Yeah. I definitely miss those times. I don't value that as much as I used to.
Yeah.
I remember like there were times my car was broken down or something, and I would be so upset because I felt like all my freedom was taken away.
Yeah.
And that was like hard. I would always like I just was like upset and depressed if I didn't have, I felt very like tied down. Nowadays, I'm like, if I don't have my car, if like it's in the shop and my wife takes our other car, I don't care at all. I'm like, I'm stuck at home and I'm happy to be stuck at home. It doesn't bother me at all. If I really have to get somewhere that bad, I'll take an Uber or something. Right. But like, I don't feel like, but back then, man, there was something about that freedom you got that was just very liberating.
I agree.
Which I think is synonymous with freedom.
Liberty?
Liberty.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Cinnamoniness.
Yeah.
Before we go, too.
Yeah.
Your first car technically was the Oldsmobile, but that wasn't your first vehicle.
Oh.
Do you remember your moped? We can talk about it another time.
Yeah, my moped.
Dude,
I had a moped when I was 15.
Storms with that thing. Ice storms, snowstorms. It was incredible. You were a champion back then.
Dude, that's right. See, I wouldn't let anything get in the way of my freedom. Even when I was 15, I'd drive way out 20 minutes away to another town in that thing.
Yeah.
And then when I was 16, I finally got that. Well, we didn't actually call it a 1991 Oldsmobile Taco Supreme. You remember what we called it?
The Taco Supreme?
1991 Oldsmobile Taco Supreme.
Well, hey, on that note, it's been cool to talk about the cars that we own that shaped us in our youth, but unfortunately we have to go.
We do. We have to go right now.
We do. You want to hop in my car?
Sure. Thank you.
Hey, Jaron, I enjoyed this.
Your thank you.
Your thank you.